Welcome to the show. My name is James Nielsen Watt, and in this show, we interview interesting, inspiring, and successful people so you can learn the secrets to success and can play the game of life, business, health, and happiness better. And the philosophy we take here is if I'm leveling up my game, you get to level up yours as well. So get ready to listen to some inspiring people who have figured out how to have success in all areas of life: health, happiness, wealth, business. We're going to be interviewing them in this show so that you can learn the secrets to success that they share with practical advice that you can take and use today. So if you enjoy the show, please subscribe, please leave us a review, and please share it with your friends, because if I can help you and you can help others, then we can help more people together and we can all level up our game together. My guest today is a best-selling author, brand strategist, international speaker, and educator, Jennifer Cohen. She was recently named 100 most influential people in health and fitness by Greatest, and is currently ranked number 16 most impactful fitness entrepreneurs by WebMD. Jennifer is the CEO of Suprema Fitness, a full-service agency backed by venture fund MDO Holdings, which primarily invests in health and wellness tech startups. She also serves as a brand strategist to world-class brands, including Weight Watchers, Muscle Milk, Kind Bar, Tonal Gyms, and more. Thank you so much for coming on the show, Jennifer. Super excited to have you on.
Thank you for having me. This is great.
We really got into it pre-show. I thought was quite funny, and I tend to do that. And then it's like, oh crap, we need to actually start recording because maybe some of this will be interesting.
I do that too all the time. So it's kind of user error. I do that a lot. And then I have half the stuff that should have been on my podcast on the podcast without any recording. So I got it.
Well, I feel like I know you a lot better, and I'd love our audience too as well. Can you give us some backstory on kind of where you are now for some context, and then where you were and sort of how you got there? I always like those stories. I find it interesting.
Okay. Where am I now? That's a great question. I think I kind of a little bit of everything. I think I'm a lot of places, right? So what I do now is I do a lot of non-traditional marketing and strategic advising for tons of brands. And I also have a podcast called Habits and Hustle, where I really try to get into the meat of how and what makes people successful and what habits they do daily. I think that what I do now, if I would sum it up, is I'm a habit hacker. So I'm always trying to figure out the best ways to kind of elevate and level up my performance and my successes, both personally and professionally. And I write books and on it. And I really kind of fall in the space of wellness and health. I'm an entrepreneur really in that space of wellness and health. And my background actually was never in this area. I was working as a music executive for a record label, and I kind of fell into all of this by accident. And I think that took me on a whole different trajectory that I never knew was available. And I think that's basically where I was. And I'm in LA, and I'm Canadian, and I used to be in Canada. So there you have it.
I love when we fall into things, right? Like so many people try and overly plan what they're going to do and where they're going to be. And we often just end up in a place by happenstance or, transition, and we find more joy in it. What about this lifts you up maybe more than what you were doing, and therefore why you were sort of pushed towards this direction?
Well, I think that my passion, I've always been super, super into health and fitness. I was very active. I always liked to be active. I always liked to work out. I never thought of that to be something of a career though, right? Because in your head, you kind of feel like it's based on how I grew up, right? I grew up in a very traditional Jewish household where everything was about education, and you're going to be either a doctor or a lawyer or maybe an accountant. So working in the health and fitness space without being a doctor, without an MD, was not even something that was even part of my, it wasn't even part of the conversation ever. So it never even occurred to me. So what I did was I went to school. I went to get my business degree very young, and I I ended up working for a record label. I used to work for a sports team. Then I went back to school for my master's in business, and I went to a record label and was working in the marketing department. And I was fast tracking and doing very well, where I got a job offer because I was living in Toronto at the time. And I got a job offer to come to Los Angeles and work for another record label at, Sony at the time. And that's what I did. And then while I was there, I realized that it really wasn't something I was loving. It was like I liked it enough, but it really wasn't like passion. I wasn't really passionate about it. I was good at it, but I don't think that necessarily it's because you're good at something. I think a lot of times what I can take those skills that what made me good at that, and I can transfer them to something that maybe I'm actually can also be good at. So I didn't let the idea at that time be like, well, I didn't know what I wanted. So what happened was I was working in the States, but I was on a working visa, because when you go from country to country, you're not allowed just to like work freely, right? Like you're on a visa, and that visa is attached to the one company that sponsored you. So when I decided to quit the record label, I really didn't know what to do to make money, and I didn't want to go back to Canada because I really loved the lifestyle that LA provided. I loved the sunshine. I love the weather. Like the idea of going back to like minus 30 was not that appealing when I'm now like, frolicking in the sun. So I was like, how do I make money? So I decided to kind of become a personal trainer, get my certification, and then start to make money kind of under the table where people can pay me cash if I became a trainer. I was really young still, so I was like trying to figure stuff out. But what happened was, when I started to get into the whole training thing, which is what I like to do, it was also like a way I could make money doing what I liked. It kind of dawned on me that I can go back to the places I had relationships and create an opportunity that was otherwise not there for me. And I went to the label and I pitched myself as a label trainer, which would mean like I would start now training the talent, the artists before they go on tour or before they do a video. And I kind of very boldly just made a job description up for myself because I knew how the budgets worked. And the head of the label thought I was crazy and was like, didn't really understand what I was saying, but he's like, you know what? All right, fine. I'll give you a month. You can do what you want. And that way I didn't cap myself. That way I was getting paid a retainer now, not hour to hour, but also I was now getting paid legally by a company, right? Just doing something that I enjoyed to do. And that first gig, that 1 month that he gave me turned out to be, went from 1 month to 2, 3, 4, 5, lots of months. And then one record label turned into 2, then 3. And then I had a bunch of people who worked underneath me as trainers, then they would go train the different artists on the record labels. So I really did a hard pivot, right? And what I did was I followed kind of my heart and my passion by going into an area and then figuring out next steps after that. So I kind of just didn't have all the answers, but I figured it would be worthwhile to at least attempt at something that I was really passionate for. And it worked out because from there, I got tons of different opportunities, right? Because now I'm in a public space where a lot of the people I was working with are very famous. So then at that time, we didn't have social media and influencers didn't work out the same way it was now. But there I became an influencer because brands would want me to have the stuff, because then the people who were famous around me would like the stuff, and it became a whole other business. And I got book deals and all sorts of things happened. And it kind of just blossomed from there.
I want to transition into talking about habits and the habits that give us our success. Just thinking about all of that, what do you think it was that allowed you to, maybe it was a belief, maybe it was a habit, a pattern, whatever, that allowed you to do it in spite of a lack of knowledge, fears, lack of belief? Because
right.
A lot of the time we think like, I got to know it before I do it. And the most successful people I talk to, we don't. We just know we have to figure it out instead of having the information first. Does that make sense?
Yeah, 100%. I think it makes perfect sense. I also think that that's the big problem, right? I think, I talk about this in my TED Talk, actually, is I think that being too smart and being too methodical can work to your disadvantage, because that's when you really kind of need to have, you have all your spreadsheets and you're trying to figure out, there's never going to be a great time to do anything. So you've got to, and also you're never going to know everything about everything. So a lot of times you learn on the job, on the way, right? So I always act. I think that, like, when you sit there and marinate an idea, it's like the whole analysis paralysis thing. The more you think about something, sometimes the harder it is to actually get up and move. And I think we are our own worst enemies with that, right? And then we surround ourselves with people who tell us, no, you can't do it, or why that's never been done, or like, that's such a stupid idea. And so the people who are surrounding you are very much influential in what you're doing. So you have to be very, very much, you got to have a very kind of strong mindset and trust your own gut, and surround yourself also with people who are like-minded in that way, who help kind of build you up and have that same type of mindset. Because I think that, to your point, the people who I know who've been the most successful, they didn't sit there with like spreadsheets and figuring out how and when and why. They kind of just moved, and they made a lot of mistakes, and I made a ton of mistakes, but yet, like, it didn't deter me from continuing to getting back up and going. I always say to people, I had a master's at falling, but I had a PhD also. I got a PhD in like getting right back up and trying again, right? I think it's that constant ability to kind of get, kind of fail, but then get yourself back up again and try again. To me, if you can master that idea of resilience, then you're off to the races. The problem is most people are very uncomfortable with that. They don't want to fail. They're scared of failure. So they'll talk themselves out of even trying for that opportunity. So you have to really kind of train your brain to shift, to think differently, to think about failure differently, to think about what really makes people successful, what makes something a success. The only way to really be successful is to get into the trenches and try, because the best experience is actually practical experience. Like, a lot of times, you have a business idea, you have all these different things, and you kind of like put together this great business plan, and it's all the devils in the details that would actually make something not work in the first place, right? Like, you've never even thought of that. But unless you go out there and figure stuff out like that, you'll never figure out those details, right? Because you don't know the details. You have to be working in those trenches and being immersed in practical experience in the world to kind of figure that stuff out.
There's a huge difference between theory and practical experience, and that
huge.
There's for example, I'm in healthcare, and you can be a professor telling it how it's supposed to be, and then you can actually work with clients and be like, it's a bit different to what the textbook says, because the reality is that your client's not going to listen. And so you're more of a coach, like accountability person, than you are actually the practicer of the technique, because if they don't show up, you can't do anything. And that's something that I learned and what I teach my clients. I like what you said.
Say something about that too. What I was going to say is there's two types of people: the people who go and do, and the people who teach you to do. The best teachers are the ones who've actually done it before, because they're talking from experience, right? Just, to be no one knows unless you do it, right? I think, in my opinion. So surround yourself with people who have that experience. If you want to do something or have a teacher or a coach, make sure that coach has done it before and walk the walk, right? It's very easy to talk, oh yeah, don't do this, this theory will work. You don't know. Have somebody around you or have an accountability coach who've actually had to do it themselves.
Yeah. Something I add to that when I'm talking to people about finding mentors is not only have they done it, but ideally you want someone who's done it and then been able to replicate it with somebody else. Because there are plenty of people that they've got skills but it's that translating to helping someone else who doesn't have skills so you can speed them up. I think is important as well.
That's true. It is very important.
Something I always say is action breeds clarity, and clarity confirms strategy. Too many of us wait for a confirmation that this is the right thing, which can take forever, versus going and doing something and then finding the clarity in it. And to your point, we said failure leads to resilience and how we need to be able to pick ourselves back up. We hear it often in this positive spin of like, well, there is no failing, only learning. And I think that that's true, but I think that that's true once you've realized it and embodied it, because just saying it doesn't make sense to most people. And so I think in practicality, it's like, no, learn to fall on your face and then just stand up and continue. Not, well, I'm falling on my face, but I learned what not to do. Like, that's the truth of it.
Oh yeah.
But more than that, it's like, just get some resilience to, like my kid's learning to walk. Well, he walks now, but it's like he falls over, smashes his face, grazes his knee, and he stands up. And I'm not going to jump and say, oh my gosh, don't worry about walking, buddy, I'll just carry you. I'm going to check he's all right, but help him develop resilience to push ahead for what he wants, which in the case is walking. Because we don't ever say to our kids, well, you fell over a couple of times, maybe walking's not for you, buddy. Like, that's just not a thing. But we do.
It's funny you say that. I agree with you. I also think there's a lot about 20/20 hindsight, right? Like, as you're failing, you're not thinking, well, this was a great learning experience for me. You're not thinking that, because you failed. You got to like dust yourself up and get back up again. But it's about the idea. Like, I created this whole philosophy that I really believe in, and I call it the 10% target, because I believe that if you are successful 10% of the time, but allow yourself to fail 90%, you are ahead. But you're ahead of the masses tenfold, right? So like what I always say like, and this is the reason why. Don't just attempt at something once, make 10 attempts at something. Give yourself 10 attempts to kind of get to that goal. Now, either one of two things will happen. Either you're going to get to that goal, or another opportunity will present itself that you never even knew existed. So to me, if you change your mindset to that 10% target, so when you do fail, you're kind of expecting that failure. And you're like, okay, you know what, that's failed, I got 6 more attempts to make, because then you're not expecting to have success the first time out. The other thing is, the reason why that works is because most people don't even make 1 attempt, and almost nobody makes 2 attempts. So if you're that person who's making more than those attempts, on pure volume and numbers, you're going to make it. That is the truth. I mean, like there's really, like, there's been people I've known who's been, they're like these serial entrepreneurs, right? They try, they fail, they get back. It's like these people who come along and I meet them, they're like, they've tried 11 things and they've all been total like failures. But the 12th or whatever it hits, or the 10th it hits, and now they're like it's a $1 billion idea. And then people are like, wow, what an overnight success. Really? It wasn't an overnight success. That person had more attrition than everybody else to keep at it, right? Attrition is so underrated, right? Like the people who are just like doing it over and over and over again and just are constantly they're so determined and they're so just tenacious and they won't stop, are the ones that are going to make it. And that's how they're going to achieve the goal.
It's like, when should I give up? When should I know that it's not the right thing? And the answer is never. Just keep learning from what's not working, I think is what I take from that, right? Like, especially when you said, most people don't try once and then, no one tries 2, 3, and no one tries 10. Like, what are there's so many quotes with Disney, for example. Was it like 300 banks? He got fired for not being creative and then formed Disney. Squid Games. Yeah. I think there's a quote with the Squid Games. I never ended up watching it. I don't watch it on Netflix, but apparently that got turned down.
Oh, I know. It got turned down a lot.
And a lot of good things are that. And it's, if you keep doing the same thing over and over again, that's stupid. But if you're adapting and you're going, oh, what's working, what's not, and you're making shifts, just continuing is an inevitability that you'll have some level of success because it's just the accumulation of knowledge, you know?
Yeah, what I tell people is don't change the goal, change the plan, right? I mean, your goal shouldn't change, but the plan should change. Maybe you just have to tweak that plan just a little bit, you know, like, and that tweak can be the difference between a failure and a success.
I thought of something interesting. It kind of just popped in my head as you said that. If your goal is clear and outside of having to happen a certain way, you're a lot more free in your ability to achieve it. Because if you say, I must make this company turn into this outcome for myself or the whatever, you're now stuck in the lane of that has to work. And so you can end up hitting your head against the wall. I did that with, financial goals. And very quickly I realized, no, the financial goal just exists. It doesn't have to be down this path. And now I'm doing stuff that's completely different. I'm just deregistered as a chiropractor, right? Like I'm a chiropractor, but I'm not registered, which means I can't go into practice. I haven't practiced in 2 years anyway, but it's like an official thing to not be paying my registration and doing CPD and stuff like that. It's a super
That's
weird
a big
feeling.
move.
Because it's like I have to let go of the thing that I haven't done anyway, but there's still an emotional attachment because I've, I don't know if the word's dissociated from this pathway has to get me there. I've instead said that's the goal and whatever it takes is going to get me there with these conditions. So I had financial goals with time and family conditions on them.
So you have to adapt. I mean, one of the big things about success or anything you want to achieve, there has to be a level of adaptation. You have to be able to, like, if you're too regimented and linear or myopic in your ideas, that's where you can also hit a lot of problems, right? You have to be able to adapt and kind of pivot where necessary.
Yeah, too many people just get stuck. I've done a lot of Tony Robbins, and he talks about the same thing: is change your approach.
Yeah, that's funny you say that. Tony Robbins is going to be on my podcast for the second time next week.
Oh wow, that's amazing.
Yeah, I'm super excited. Yeah.
Is there anything that you could teach someone in a soundbite that would help them with some of this? For me, I have a 3-2-1 rule. So if I'm going to do something, I don't, and I borrowed this from Tony, is I don't let my body or my mind, it's non-negotiable. If I've decided, you don't get to have a say in whether I do it or not. The other day I was at a trampoline park with my kid, and my accomplishment for the year has been I did a backflip. Never done one before in my life. I'm 31. I've done forward flips when I was younger, and every time I go to the trampoline park, I always said, I should just ask those kids how to do a backflip. And then I get busy, or I'm like, oh no, I'm with my kids. And today I said, I keep doing this. I'm not going to let that excuse be there anymore. And so I just walked up to some of the kids that were there. I say kids, but maybe in their 20s, and they're like running the show. And I'm like, can you show me how to backflip? And they look at me like, I don't know if I can show you to backflip. You look a bit older than most people I show. And they said, well, can you do a forward flip? I said, yeah, I haven't done one in a while. I showed them, and they said, oh, you could probably do it. And I said, just show me what to do, man, and I'll do it. And they're like, oh, it's, you just got to keep practicing this. I did the thing they told me to do, like bounce on my back and flip, did it a few times. And I'm like, cool, I'm ready to do it. Do you mind just standing there so I don't break my neck? Because I kind of, want to run around with my kids for the rest of my life. And that's my only fear with this. And they're like, oh, well, I can't help you. I said, no, just make sure I don't land on my head. So just push me or something like that so I don't land on my head. And he's like, oh, okay. And then I bounced a few times. I went 3, 2, 1, and then I did it and I landed on my feet. And the guys went, holy shit, is your first time? And I was like, yeah. And they go, well, that was awesome. Can you do it again? I was like, yeah. And I did like 4 times in a row. Same thing, same fear, because it's irrational. I'm going to go back because I'm going to kill myself.
That's actually that is a rational fear. That's what I'd be scared of. I wouldn't want to, I'd be scared I'd snap my neck too.
The irony with a backflip, for anyone who wants to give it a go, is it's dangerous when you don't actually do it. So what most people do is they go backwards, and then they tuck before they're actually backwards. And so you end up just going up and then landing on your head. So if you actually commit to, and this is, I think this is a great metaphor, if you actually commit to going backwards, you will, because you can't not. Because as you go backwards, your legs will tuck, which will continue the momentum and you'll land. It's the people who go up and then crunch and they just land on their head.
Yeah, so it's like that hesitance, like you can't hesitate. It's like kind of like going all in, or
you can't
the
half-ass it. You can't
half-ass it. That's, or a fear. Again, it's about that fear piece that you second guess yourself, and that fear is what holds you back. And then with that comes a lot of other potential complications.
Well,
right?
Yeah, you question, and then you don't follow through on the strategy. And so you don't get the full, outcome of it. And then it confirms for you that you shouldn't have done it, but it's because you separated from the original intent. I think Elon Musk said it. He's like, I'm still anxious. I'm still fearful. I just do it anyway. And I've tried to think, as long as it's not, like, my categories are, this is not actually stupid. Like, I'm not gonna die statistically, so that I've logicked my way out of it. I'm like, this is not actually stupid. So everything that I'm feeling can now be the stupid thing. So the backflip, I'm not actually going to die, because there's like kids that are doing this, right?
Yeah, but you know what they do say, not to only talk about the backflip, but it's easier for kids because their bodies are much more okay with like doing things like a backflip that is kind of new for them. Their bodies are more elastic. Because they lack the fear factor, the chances are higher of like the not getting hurt. Someone who's older, whose body is already kind of like has a lot of different, injuries or fear, or like they're not as nimble, they will be hurt. That's why when people are young, they should be the one. When you're a young kid, that's when you should learn how to ski or how to snowboard or how to skate, right? Like, or play hockey or any sport. Right? Because it's easier to learn and adapt and do that repetitive thing that at a younger age. When you're old, you're not even old. If I did it, that'd be a whole other story. But it's easier when you're a kid, like 4.
I'm gonna not based on anything other than just pure belief, challenge you a bit on that. But what I'm going to say mainly for people listening is, while that might be technically true, my philosophy is, if you believe that beyond the actual point of truth and you start allowing that to overflow into everything else, it becomes a story that just stops you from doing anything, because
everything, of course,
I'm not young,
100%.
But yeah, no, I felt it afterwards, because I had pushed myself a bit, and I don't exercise as much as I should, etc. But
you're proud of yourself that you actually, that's an accomplishment. That feeling of accomplishment is so important for your overall confidence, for you then attempting and trying all other kind of things that are fresh and new to you. To me, it's really important to constantly challenge yourself mentally too, right? Like, wow, I can do it. And that's like, that's the best kind of motivation out there, right? Is that when you see yourself accomplishing something, or that's the best way to confidence to then try something new again, right? Like that.
Yeah. We said it before, right? Knowing and doing are different. And I know we're harping on about backflips here, everybody. Well, I am. For me, it was just a confirmation of, I know that I can do whatever I put my head to.
Right.
But can I? Because I keep being soft about doing a backflip. And so then I just did it, and I went, no, yep, I can. And so for me, it was while it was a minor thing, in actuality, it was a confirmation of, you know what? Yeah, 3, 2, 1 works, because my body and mind are going to try and negotiate with me. I've eliminated all actual risks. So everything else is just a story perception. Let's go and do it. After that, I then made a big business decision, and I purchased some land for a dream house, and a few things happened in succession that was like, you know what? Actual risk is mitigated. Everything else is in my head. 3, 2, 1, we're going to do it. So if anybody's listening and you got some fears, 3, 2, 1, no negotiation, go and do it. And on the other side of it is it sounds, flaky, but everything that you want because the rush is, wow, I didn't have to negotiate with myself. I just did it anyway. Jennifer, I'm conscious of time for you. What are some habits that you see in yourself or successful people around you that you think more people should be emulating if they're wanting to have more success, more abundance, more happiness, more health?
The number one that I think has helped me a lot is having some form of fitness, not about backflips again, but taking fitness seriously, where you make that a non-negotiable. We talked about non-negotiable. You just mentioned non-negotiables. To me, exercising daily is a non-negotiable for me. And this is why, because I think number one, it sets I prefer in the morning, but if you can't do that in the morning, you can pick some other time. But what it does for your brain is the cognitive abilities is bar none. So forget about the physical stuff that you get from it. But fitness for me has taught me goal setting, discipline, doing something, also like accomplishment. You see yourself getting stronger. That's the best motivation to propel you to keep on going. What it does for your brain cognition and your overall energy, your focus, your being alert, all of these things are so instrumental and fundamental in everything else in life, right? So if you can really kind of create a habit, a practice of whatever it is daily where you're exercising, the neurotransmitters, what it does to your brain has such massive effects beyond, like I said, the physical, that to me is the number one habit that I think everybody should do. And people say, oh, I don't have enough energy. Guess what? You get more energy from that workout than you would from doing nothing. I usually, when I'm not exercising, I'm much more lethargic. I'm much more unproductive. But if I pack in that morning exercise routine before my really busy day, I go through that busy day, I power through it, much more energy, much more brain power. So, and it gives me more productivity. So, and I feel when you do something for yourself, that's also good for yourself, to me, it's like a feeling of accomplishment, a feeling that you're taking care of yourself. You can't take care of anybody else or all the other things on your plate if you're not even looking after yourself well. So to me, that's the number one habit that everyone should be doing. And I'm not saying you have to do crazy intense. I'm just saying, make it a habit. Don't just not do it because you think you don't like it. Find something you like. Right now, there's so many different ways to try different things. It's all about trial and error. But to have that as part of your daily routine is so important.
Do you subscribe to the idea of I think you kind of said it, to be honest, find the activity that would allow you to have the exercise and the movement and the fitness that you enjoy, not just I'm going to go on the treadmill, but I just hate it, but I got to do it anyway?
No, absolutely. That's why people say all the time, what's the best thing to do? But the best exercise to do, I say the one that you're actually going to do, right? Yeah. So if I say running and you hate running, then it's not going to stick. There'll be no traction with it. So the onus is on the other person to know, they know themselves more than I know them. So figuring out what works for you, right? If you like dancing, take it, do a dance class. If you like weight training, do weight training. If you like Pilates, I don't care what it is, but you have to move your body at least 30 minutes a day.
Yeah. No, that's incredible. I've written down some non-negotiables that I need to review in my own life. I put down gratefulness, consuming knowledge, family, things like that. I think that establishing things as non-negotiables is important because of exactly what we said. It's too easy to negotiate with ourselves. I'll do it later. I'll do less today. Oh, I'm tired. Oh, I'm this. And ironically, we create the habit of excuse, which prevents us from getting what we want. And we wonder why we don't end up where we want to be, feel how we want to feel, have what we want to have. It's because we've established habits
don't be upset by the results you did not get, by the work you did not do, right? Do not be upset by the results you did not get if you did not put the work in. I mean, if you want to have a result, you need to put the work in. You need to work it, and you not just once in a while. You have to be consistent. It's about doing it when you don't want to do it. It's about going when you don't want to go. It's about reading when you're not so crazy about reading. Like, you have to continue working it. You got to be consistent with growing and doing it even when it's tough. It's easy to do things when it's easy, right? But it's about doing it when you don't want to do it.
Exactly. I resonate with that so much. I didn't go out on Friday nights. I stayed at home and learned skills that would solve problems that would progress my business or whatever thing I had. And people miss that. It's like we said before, overnight success, 10 years of struggle in the making, because you just saw the end, but you didn't see the rest of it. I want to ask you one last question. What's the most important thing you ever learned?
To ask for what you want. People don't even ask. So I learned that you get a lot, people are too shy, they're uncomfortable, they don't have the confidence. It's amazing what you get if you just ask for it, right? And it's not that complicated. It's a very simple thing. I'm not telling you anything that's so philosophical, but sometimes common sense isn't so common, and you need to have that extra reminder that sometimes the simple things that are right in front of you can change your life by starting with something as simple as the ask.
100%. Today's been amazing. I've reconfirmed some things myself and learned things at a deeper level, and I really appreciate you coming on the show. Where can our audience connect with you and follow what you're doing?
Well, they can see me on Instagram at The Real Jen Cohen, or they can listen to my podcast called Habits and Hustle, or they can check me out on my website. People even go on websites anymore, jennifercohen.com. I don't know. I'm on TikTok, all the regular places that people are.
Amazing. Thank you so much. I got a page of notes here. I might upload these for people as well to use. Thank you so much. I appreciate you.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you for listening to today's episode. Everything shared will be in the description of the episode, so you can go and grab that. Now, if you enjoyed the show and you want to listen to more, please subscribe, because every week we're releasing new episodes with inspiring people, successful people, so you can level up your game. So subscribe and also leave us a review. We'd love to hear feedback about the show and your thoughts and opinions there as well. Now, if you want to have more success, whether it's in your life, whether it's in your business, we run live trainings every single week where you can get access to me to coach you through everything from health, wealth, success, business. We're doing topics on all things that you need to live a better, more inspired and successful life. Live trainings every single week. Just visit jamesnielsenwatt.com/live and you can get access to that. Now, there's also a ton of resources that you get for just listening to the show. All of that will be in the description. So if you are watching this on YouTube, check the description. If you're listening to this episode, check the description. We've got a load of resources there for you to have more success in your life, whether it's relationships, investing, or in business. I'll see you on the next episode. And as always, subscribe, leave a review, and tell your friends, because there's somebody else that needs to be hearing this, and maybe you're their opportunity to help them level up their game.